Okay, now that we have a general idea of what we have inside the CorelDraw layout, let's take a closer look at the toolbar over on the left-hand side. Now, the toolbar inside CorelDraw is very much like a real-world toolbox. So you're going to find all of your different tools for pulling off different designs and different techniques and so on inside the toolbox. Now, there's lots that I want to show you here, but I think what I'll do is I'll try and start at the beginning here. First of all, I've already mentioned during our training that the very first tool inside the toolbox is the pick tool. Now, this guy is going to allow us to select objects inside our layout, move them around, resize them, all this good stuff. Now, I'm going to talk about the pick tool in more detail in just a moment, but kind of keep that in your back pocket. But what I want to mention next is the remaining tools inside the toolbox, what you can do if you want to kind of get an idea of what they are and maybe sort of a rough idea of what they do. You can just hover over top of them and you'll get, once again, this little message here which is referred to as a tooltip. So there's the shape tool, there's our crop tool, the zoom tool, and so on and so on. So you might want to take a moment and just sort of explore your toolbox and see what you have in store here. Now, generally how it works is we have our sort of our manipulation tools-ish, if you will, towards the top, and then we have a group of shape tools about halfway down. And then as you get down towards the bottom of the toolbox, we start getting into some tools that are more related to special effects and fills and things like this. But again, as you work more and more with CorelDraw, you'll really get a sense of how these tools work. And the other thing I should mention as well is sort of like your menu commands that I mentioned in the previous exercise. There's a lot of tools here, and you'll quickly discover which ones you're going to use a lot, which ones you'll use once in a blue moon, and which ones you'll never use in a million years. So you quickly kind of catch on to how it works. Now, the next thing that I want to show you, in addition to just sort of hovering over top of these tools to get this little tooltip message, you'll notice that some of the tools, like the shape tool, for example, have a little black triangle, a tiny arrow in the tool's bottom right corner. What does that mean? Well, what that means is that there's more tools hidden underneath that tool. Notice that the pick tool doesn't have a black arrow or a black triangle in his corner. So, for example, what I can do here is I can click and hold on the shape tool, and I now get a tool flyout, which reveals even more tools. So, if you felt a little overwhelmed a moment ago, well, sadly, there's even more tools that we now have here inside CorelDraw. So, for example, underneath the shape tool, we have the smudge brush, the roughen brush, and also transform. Now, once again, I would completely encourage you to explore through some of these flyouts. There's all kinds of amazing, neat tools here available to us inside CorelDraw. And don't forget, some of the tools have the flyouts, like my basic shapes there. Some of them don't, like the text tool or the table tool, right? Once again, just sort of explore around a little bit and see what you have there. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention as well is your keyboard shortcuts. And I brought up keyboard shortcuts not too long ago. What you'll notice as you're kind of working through your toolbox and kind of discovering what you have here is you'll find that some of the tools, like the shape tool here, this is a great example, have a keystroke inside brackets at the end of the tooltip. What that is a keyboard shortcut to access that tool. Now, I'll give you an example here. I'm going to go back to my pick tool here, just at the top of the toolbox there. And then what I'll do is on my keyboard, I'll hit F10. And what that does is that actually switches me over to the shape tool inside the toolbox without me actually having to click on it, right? So this is sort of CorelDraw power user stuff, if you will. So F10 is your shape tool if you want. Now give this a try. Try hitting the Z key on your keyboard, and that will switch you can see here in your toolbox, to your zoom tool. So there's another shortcut. Try hitting the H key on your keyboard. That'll switch you to your hand tool. Here's one more I'll show you. Try hitting F6 on your keyboard, and that will switch you to your rectangle tool inside the toolbox. So there you go. Very cool stuff. Now, you don't have to use these keyboard shortcuts. You know, nothing really beats a single mouse click to go and grab something on your screen, right? So there you go. Hopefully all good. You can use those shortcuts if you want, or you can just, of course, head over to the toolbox and single click on the tool that you're after. Okay, great. Now, I want to bring up one final thing here with you. I began our conversation here by discussing the pick tool at the top of the toolbox. Now, sometimes people get a little bit hung up on this. They go, okay, I'm done drawing some rectangles. I'm done, using the hand tool or the zoom tool or typing up my text or whatever the case may be. I'm done with that. How do I shut that tool off? Well, You never turn off your tools completely inside CorelDraw. You always have one tool turned on all the time, right? So you don't have to do this, but this is how I work anyway. Whenever I'm done, whatever it is I'm doing, I'm done drawing my rectangles, I'm done working with my rectangle tool or whatever the case may be, I always head back up to the pick tool at the top of the toolbox there. The pick tool to me is sort of the neutral tool. Whenever I'm done or whenever I'm sort of at a place of rest, I always head back to the pick tool. Just kind of a personal thing, and you can certainly do it yourself if you want. So the pick tool is sort of the go-to tool for me inside CorelDraw anyway. So there you go. There's your toolbox.
To change your